des douanes et de la conférence PICARD. Alors, nous avons un contributeur qui est là, mais il nous en manque 3. Bon, c'est beaucoup. On a droit à un coefficient de perte, mais pas à ce point-là. Est-ce qu'il y aurait d'autres contributeurs qui seraient arrivés? Contributrices, voilà. Merci beaucoup. Voilà, on a 50% des effectifs. Et il m'en manque 2. Bien, les effectifs sont complets. Nous avions prévu de commencer à 9 h. Nous avons 10 minutes de retard. On va essayer de combler ce retard. Nous avons 3 contributions ce matin, cette matinée, puis 3 autres dans une autre salle à KIC, où nous devrons aller tout à l'heure. Et 3 contributions plus 3 qui relèvent de 6 États différents. Et 6 États qui, sur le thème de la facilitation des échanges, marquent finalement des réflexions tout à fait complémentaires et qui se complètent. Il n'y a pas de concurrence dans les contributions ou de juxtaposition. Le contenu est varié et je félicite les organisateurs pour cette complémentarité sur le thème de la facilitation des échanges. Donc nous allons commencer sans plus tarder par le premier intervenant. Le professeur, je vais lire mes lunettes, Cristiano Morini, de l'université de Campinas au Brésil, sur les OEA. J'avais envie de lui demander combien d'OEA au Brésil et how many AO in Brazil. Et ensuite, on pourra lancer les questions, donc les contributions, et puis quelques minutes consacrées aux questions si nous avons le temps et si vous en êtes d'accord, bien entendu. Merci. Vous voulez intervenir ici?
Oui.
Ok.
President. Let me check. Thank you. No. Okay, you can.
I will do that.
Yes. You could do my.
I respect your contribution.
Excuse me. Let me find. Thank you.
Good morning. Sorry about that kind of stuff. I would like to thank you, the World Customs Organization and the PICARD conference supporting team. I'd like to thank you, all of you from the... Okay, thank you. Okay, I am professor from the University of Campinas, in Brazil. We have a research group there related to trade facilitation and international trade. And the focus of this presentation is about the program AEO in Brazil, the authorized economic operator in Brazil. And I have other colleagues here that make contributions to this kind of research and the presentation. Our presentation is structured like this one. We have the problem statement. We identified the idea of importance of metrics in international trade. And we define an objective related to the metrics and the AEO. We are going to see this in a couple of minutes. We raised the 2 research questions. We defined the method, the qualitative method. And we have some highlights about the AEO in the world and the AEO in Brazil. And after that, we have some discussions and the conclusions. The idea was to identify in this kind of ocean of metrics we have related to trade logistics and the cross-border operations in literature in the world, relate to which of them are important to the management of the implementing AEO program around the world. We know that the use of performance indicators is vital to the customs administrations, provide a better level of services. We have a lot of literature related on this. I have listed some at the end. And it's also important that it's possible to measure the quality and the effectiveness of the services performed by customs and the other agencies that operate in foreign trade controls, as well as reduce uncertainties. And we see that the controls is important to performance better, and what is important to performance better relate to the AEO. That was a kind of opportunity we identified. And we also consider that we have already 15 years of the beginning of the AEO implementation program worldwide. And it may be a time to go deeper in the performance indicators in the context of AEO. Our objective was to analyze the relation between the literature related to cross-border operations, as was mentioned, and performance indicators and the AEO program, and we focus especially in Brazil case. For what? The topic of performance indicators is unusual in the context of AEO. And this kind of a match may be useful for the implementing countries worldwide, AEO implementing countries. And we raised 2 research questions. What kind of, question 1, what kind of performance indicators an economic operator must pursue to become an NEO? So we focus in the economic operator, in the business's perspectives to become an NEO. And do they match to the trade logistics cross-border indicators in literature? What is why we think about that? Because I think the theoretical perspective and the practical perspective, they have to be most of the time going to the same path. So we raised those 2 questions. The method, we combine some keywords like trade, international operations, international logistics, indicators, performance indicators, border, customs, AEO, in a mixed ways. And we made a systematic literature review in some databases like Web of Science, Scopus. We also researched and collect information from the Brazilian Revenue Services in the website. It's about the regulation in Brazil. And we exposed the indicators obtained from the literature and compared them to the indicators found into the Brazilian legislation regarding to the what is important for the economic operator needs to be or becomes to be an AO. And we're going to in certain phases that I'm going to mention here in a couple of minutes about the literature review. I'm going to mention this. And finally, we analyze the match and the frequency of the indicators, unveiling the possibility of use of indicators as outcomes in other countries, considering AO program is in process of implementing in several countries. So we follow this path, and I have an additional information here that I'm show you in a moment. Those are some kind of literature we collected. For example, those authors, they are in green mentions there. And some informations we collect, for example, speed, flexibility, quality of services, regulatory environment, information availability, cooperation in border agencies. There is a kind of indicators. Let me show you a complementary presentation here. Here is the original paper. We are going to submit it to the World Customs Journal. We made it. So here we can see the authors and the indicators. There is dozens of indicators. And after identify these in first phase, what we did was to match those indicators to a very known methodology in logistics related to indicators. This is based in this work, Gunasekaran. And the Gunasekaran is a seminal work. They use the indicators related to the financial and the non-financial aspects, and the strategic, tactical, and the operational ones. So we matched the indicators we have found with this kind of methodology. It's a seminal work from Gunasekaran. And this is the first table, the first matching table, relate to what we have in literature, relate to the kind of levels, operational, tactical, and the strategical levels, and if they are financial or non-financial. And after that, we continued to match some results, and we was able to identify specific indicators related to the AO with the literature review using Gunasekaran methodology. Look at this, financial and non-financial, and the levels, strategic, tactical, and operational. The table is very big. That's not enough. That's why I didn't put it in the PowerPoint presentation, and I mention it here. And this kind of a matching table, we can see indicators that are currently in use in AO Brazilian program, and we can see if it is related to the financial or non-financial, if there is a match to the literature review, and the level, if it's related to the strategic level, tactical level, or operational level. That's what I'm going to mention this in a couple of minutes after. So back here to the AO, we highlight some important points related to the AO that it's implementing in a lot of countries worldwide. It is related to the more agile, without losing effectivity of controls of goods. Several countries have adopted the AO based on the recommendations of the World Customs organizations. And you have some codes here, for example, Carson's states there is no contradictions between facilitation and security, since a simplified process is easier to secure and a safe process is easier to facilitate. Here we can find the AO benefits in Brazil, and most of them they are related to the World Customs Organization, of course. For example, greater agility and predictability in the flow of international trade, harmonization of a working process with other regulatory bodies, publish the name of the operator at the site of the Brazilian Revenue Services as a certified company, benefits from the MRI signed with other countries, cooperation in consultative forum for legislation changes, dedicated channel of communication with customs administration, priority in analysis of the customs declarations and inspections. This is very good in Brazil, for example, because they reduce the time of the customs clearance time. And low level of physical inspections, green channel for temporary admissions, pre-arrival customs clearance. We are right now in this moment in Brazil. This is kind of a very important action we are following there in this exact moment is the implementation of the pre-arrival customs clearance. It's like a milestone in the modernization of the Brazilian international trade. So here we are going to the results. And relate to the debt matching tables I've mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Here, relate to the literature review authors, we found some results. For example, all of these authors, they tell about the performance indicators in cross-border operations, and which indicators relate to that works is related specifically to the AO. And we have some kind of results. Look at this. And the Batista is the highest matching possibility here related to the theoretical work to the practical implementation of the AO. And coincidentally, Batista is an Brazilian author, and he published a paper related to the performance indicators at the borders. It's not related specific to the customs, but is related to the borders. And most of the indicators he raised up is related to the AO context. We think it's useful to see that there is a possibility to make a correlation related to the theoretical works to the practical implementation of the AO program. And relate to the level, operational, tactical, and strategic from the Gunasekaran method, we could see that the AO program in Brazil, they have 47% related to the operational level. There are 13 indicators, 47%. Related to the tactical, 8 indicators, they are 23%, and they relate to the strategic level, there are 9 indicators, they are about 30% of all indicators we have raised in the Brazilian AO program, and matched to the Gunasekaran method. Related to the financial and the non-financial indicators, we could see that the great majority of them, they are related to the non-financial indicators. It is important to see that the AO program, it's related to the other dimensions, but financial. And which other dimensions is related to the security, to the speed, to the dependability, to the availability of information, compliance, and it was a kind of an insight we got from those analyses. The division between financial and the non-financial indicators revealed a few financial indicators in the AO certification in Brazil, which somehow confirms the emphasis of the AO in logistics issues and security. And this is the final figure that we capture from all of these analysis and insights. We can see some coincident levels of circles. For example, this circle here is related to the literature authors. So we can see the major frequency, big frequency here related to this paper and the author papers. And related to the strategic, tactical, and the operational, we can see this kind of dimension. Operational, it's the majority of almost the half of all indicators is related to the operational level for the economic operator to pursue an AO certification in Brazil. And related to the financial or non-financial, we could see those kind of results. The big majority of them is related to the non-financial, and there are some related to the financial. Conclusions. This paper analyzed the most commonly used indicators in cross-border trade logistics from the economic operator perspective. Indicators match to the non-financial aspects with emphasis on quality and compliance, flexibility and dependability, and the speed in processes involved in to release goods at borders. There is neither direct involvement in the cost reduction or financial benefits. Indirectly, we can see this, but directly we couldn't. According to Contents, Thomas Contents is here at this PICARD event, Ireland and Haviland. Metrics should not be copied from one experienced countries to another. It's necessary to consider and adapt them in local constraints. So what I can mention about this, I don't want that every country in the world use the Brazilian experience as a model. It's not the idea, but it could be useful for like a mirror effect, and what happens in that country could possibly happen in the other implementing countries. Okay, of course, each country has their own constraints and objectives related to the controls and the foreign trade. And we could identify the future works and future questions should consider whether, after the AO implementation, what kind of improvement in the level of enforcement is visible. Is it possible to see the increased number of seized goods? To what extent have exports increased? I watched here yesterday afternoon a presentation from a colleague from Turkish customs. They presented the work related to the improvements in customs services could have effects in the exports. In terms of competitiveness, do countries improve their position in global value chains? How well? How AO and the small and medium enterprises may be correlated? We have nothing about this in the legislation in Brazil or regulation in Brazil. There is no word related to the AO program for the small and the medium enterprises. That could be an opportunity to envisage to the next work, and including to propose a kind of improvement to the Brazilian regulation. And that's it. That's here my contact. I would like to thank you again to the World Customs Organization, the Republic of Turkey, the PICARD organizing and supporting committee. And here, as I mentioned, some literature we used. The first one that was the high frequency we have found in the Brazilian regulation. It is related to the, look at this, translating trade and the transport facilitation into Strategic Operations Performance Objectives. It was published in this Supply Chain Management in International Journal in 2012. And here there is a lot of other mentions. I got some of them. Here we have other colleagues that are including part here of our conference. And I would like to thank you, all of you, for this time. Thank you.
Bien, merci. Les délais sont respectés. Nous allons maintenant écouter à deux voix l'intervention suivante consacrée à la politique douanière de l'harmonisation de la facilitation du commerce en Indonésie dans les centres logistiques. Donc, si vous voulez bien venir, les deux intervenants.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the World Customs Organization and all of you here. In this session, I will try to present my paper with the title Custom Policy in the Harmonization of Trade Facilitation in Indonesia Bonded Logistics Center. I am Agung Budilaksono and my friend Rudy, Mr. Rudy Rahmadi. I am from Stan State Polytechnic, subordinate of Ministry of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. I am as the head of Department Custom and Access. Okay, maybe I try to explain about my research background. The first, the government of Indonesia has expressed interest in developing Indonesian manufacturing capacity. Indonesia, in fact, is a sizable market for manufactured goods, and its domestic consumption is a major driver of economic growth. Many of the material for manufacturing in Indonesia are imported from abroad and stored in outside of Indonesia until the product needed in domestic. Of course, it will be more efficient if it uses warehouse of goods in domestic to supply industrial estates and manufacturing centers. So the question is why the good must be stored in a neighboring country. In our government, we have fiscal incentive focus to the bonded logistics center. Many fiscal incentive in our government in this paper, I focus on bonded logistic center. What is the bonded logistic center? We call PLB in Bahasa. Bonded logistic center is bonded stockpile to store goods originating Bonded logistic center is the bonded stockpile to store goods originating outside custom area and or goods originating from elsewhere in custom area, may be accompanied by one or more simple activities within a certain period of time before they are moved to another place, either domestic or overseas. So what the benefits? The benefits are as follows: import duty deferment, excise duty exemption, VAT, value added tax, LST, income tax unimposed. This is for 3 years. I think it's interesting for the industry. Type of bonded logistic center, it can be big industry, small medium enterprise, cargo hub, e-commerce, finished good, main material, floating storage, export of commodity goods. That's kind of the types of bonded logistic center. Business process streamline before and after any PLB in Indonesia. If you look at the before any PLB, there is inefficiency in the transportation and logistic. Yeah. We can see that cost of transportation, storage, and courier in rupiahs in years 2011 amount 233 trillion. Yeah. And then logistic expenditure in the same years is 997 trillion. Yeah. And then we look at the years 2015. There is increase of the amount that is 425 trillion in 2015 for cost of transportation, storage, and courier. And then for logistic expenditure, the amount is 1,035 trillion. Yeah. I think this is significant. If we divide per years, there is 16.1% per year. This is for cost of transportation, storage, and courier. And then for logistic expenditure, per year we have 18.5% per year. Yeah, I think it's significant growth every year of the logistic expenditure and cost of transportation. This is, I think, the potential market for us or for everybody that interests in this market. PLB Indonesia, I think, in line with the postponement strategy. Yeah. Postponement strategy emphasis to change moving good to inventory as early as possible to reduce the cost of supply chains, according to Cheng, Li, Wan, and Wang, 2010. This is the information about the Indonesia Logistic Performance Index in comparison. Yeah. We can see that in years 2010, Indonesian rank in the is 25, and then in years 2012 increased to become 59. Yeah. I think it's the good performance. And then in years 2014, the rank increased to 53. Yeah. But in years 2016, the rank decreased to the 63. And then in years 2018, increased to become 46. Yeah. I think this is the impact of the bonded logic. If we look at the amount of the PLB in years 2016, we have 11 companies, and then increased to become 65 in 2018. If we look at the LPI ranking of Indonesia by logistic indicator, we have 3 variables in the problem. Yeah. There are international shipment. We have decreasing -17, and then the timeliness decreasing 8. And then about tracking and tracing, we decrease -6. This is the object of our research. How can we handle this problem so we can find the solution of this problem? My research question is, to what extent does the harmonization of custom policy on trading facility in the bonded logistics center improve the efficiency of trade at firm level? This is the research question. And then the purpose of research, this study aimed to analyze the extent of benefits in response of efficiency, cost, and time obtained by custom facilitation user in Indonesia. The research method, we use descriptive and survey method combined with the study of literature to generate the input of policy solution. I try to inform you that some of research in this paper. The first is from Kapman, Susei, and Kandampuli. According to them, emphasizes the importance of custom facilitation as characteristic of modern logistic. Yeah. Multimode transportation to acquire optimizes transport routes, shortest transport time, highest transport efficiency, safety transport guarantee, and lowest transport costs. And then the second, make the most effective use of available resources and broke the boundaries between transportation and production. Yeah. The third, focus on customer satisfaction. And then the fourth, the whole production and supply processes based upon advanced information technology. And then the second, according to Butterfly, argue that trade facilitation is at once a political, economic, business, and administrative, technical, and technological issue. And then from WTO, we have the definition that trade facilitation suggests the simplification and harmonization of procedure to facilitate trade. And then the fourth, according to Cheng, Li, Wan, and Wang, that proposed postponement strategy is one strategy of supply chain management that has a real impact on corporates' competitive advantage and performance. Yeah. The last of the theory, Ruston, proposed about details of logistic costs, namely carrying or holding costs and administrative. And then we have the government regulation related to the PLB, that is number 18.5, years 2050. In this paper, we observed from March 2016 until April 2017, yeah, with the focus on 5 provinces. There are performance comprised of 16% of total PLB performance across Indonesia, and we have 20 PLB companies. Maybe it's about data sample. The presentation will be continued with my friends, Mr. Rudy Rahmadi. Thank you.
Okay, allow me to continue. Thank you, Mr. Agung Budilaksono. Allow me to continue your presentation. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Rudy Rahmadi. I work as a customs officer of Directorate General of Customs and Excise of Indonesia. With the current position right now is a Deputy Director of Revenue. For the presentation, continuing the presentation of Mr. Agung, here is the distribution of bonded logistics center across Indonesia. The data is taken as per August 31, 2018. Right now, we have 65 PLB entities, spread over 93 locations. Here in the how to say at the bottom of this presentation, we have the evolution number of entity and allocation of PLB or bonded logistics centers from 2016 to 2018. In 2016, we have 11 entities at that time across 34 locations of Indonesia. And 2017, it increased to 34 entities across 42 locations in Indonesia. And nowadays, we have 65 entities of bonded logistics centers across 93 locations in Indonesia. And our sample is 20 companies, mostly located in this, Java Island here. And then East Kalimantan, and then Bali, yeah, including the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta. The total of 20 companies comprise of 60% of the total bonded logistics centers activities across Indonesia. And here is the performance of number of goods import or number of goods import declaration from the PLB companies. From 2016, during 10 months, from March to December, the number of import declaration is 2,704 documents, yeah, or on average 270 documents per month. And in 2017, yeah, during 4 months, from January to April, the number increased significantly to 8,544 documents, or on average per month is 256 documents, or increase almost 10 times. And then for the value of import declaration in 2016, it was 5.7 million US dollar during 10 months. Yeah, 5.7 billion, yeah, US dollar, or 570 million per month. But within 2017, only 4 months, yeah, the number increased to 62.6 billion, or perhaps around about 15.6 billion, yeah, per month, because this is only 4 months, or increase about 27 times. And this is the result of our survey. We indicate that there is a significant decrease in the logistic time. Yeah. For instance, there are 4 indicators: product delivery time, product transport time, product delivery time from storage to industry, and product storage time. From before the establishment of PLB here, for instance, product delivery time from supplier to storage is around 24 days. Now become perhaps 17.3 days, or significant decreases around 28%. Yeah, this is a good good indicator. And then for product transport time from port to storage, however, unfortunately, increased significantly from 3 days to 3.5 days, or increase of 14.4%. And product delivery time from storage to industry or to end customer, reduced from 7.3 days to 5 days, or
significant improvement of 31.3%, yeah, decreases. And product storage time, before the establishment of PLB, 47 days to 11.43 days, or significant improvement of 75.68%, yeah, decrease. What about the logistic costs? The logistic costs also, how to say, provide the significant data of improvement. This one, the estimated shipping cost of supplier to storage product, yeah, there is a 10.2% efficiency, yeah. The number perhaps is from 675 US dollar here to 598 US dollar. And then for the shipping cost estimation from storage to industry consumer, there is a significant decreases from 146.9 US dollar, this is number, yeah, to 134.4 US dollar, or significant efficiency of 8.5% decrease, yeah. And then estimated storage cost of the product reduced from perhaps around 1,000 US dollar to 186.7 US dollar, or significant increase of, significant efficiency of 81.33% reducing, yeah. And then for the estimated value of product inspection, this is some kind of administration cost, reduced 28.53%, yeah, from 504 US dollar to 360 US dollar. And it creates the improvement of product value. The final product value increased significantly 60%, yeah, from 73,000 US dollar to 118,000 US dollar. So significant increase. Yeah, thank you. So to conclude, this is our discussion and recommendation. From the survey found, there are still the problems that must be handled by relevant ministry. For instance, we indicated that there is significant increase in product transport time, especially from port to storage, increase 14.4%. So this needs to offer the Ministry of Transportation in terms of policy improvement related to logistic transportation to improve the infrastructure, road infrastructure, so on and so forth, yeah. And then for the Ministry of Trade, needs to accelerate the process and simplify the facilities and administration of import and transshipment exports. And the Ministry of Finance through customs, Indonesian customs, have to refine the landscape of bonded logistics center in order for the PLB or the bonded logistics center to more focus on particular product that it manages, so that it can manage the optimal utilization or operation. And then for the administration matters, we suggest that it needs the routine evaluation of bonded logistics for the bonded logistics center between customs and other related ministries as a step to make improvement for these customs facilitation utilization. And that will be all for our presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Is good? Merci. Thank you. Voilà. Non. Okay.
Bien. Nous allons écouter
nouvelle contribution, cette fois-ci sur l'Iran et sur l'accord sur la facilitation des échanges et son impact sur le droit douanier iranien et les procédures douanières. Madame Foroud, si vous voulez venir. Merci.
Hello everyone, I am Solmaz from Iran Customs Administration. My paper title is The Trade Facilitation Agreement and its Impact on Iran Customs Law and its newly executive procedures. First of all, let's have a glimpse on trade facilitation. Excuse me. On trade facilitation, it's okay. Okay, with microphone. Okay. First of all, let's have a glimpse on trade facilitation agreement and its history of being. It was added to the World Trade Organization's work plan at the Singapore conference in 1996. However, the precise and comprehensive definition of trade facilitation is not possible due to the extensive scope of trade regulations and procedures in different countries and also different perspectives in developing and advanced countries in relation to topics and in relation to the topics that should be included in the definition of the term trade facilitation. Trade facilitation agreement is the result of a Doha round of trade negotiations in 2001. It was adopted by WTO members at the 19th Ministerial Conference in Bali in 2013. And ultimately, it's entered into force on 22 February 2017. The main topic of trade facilitation agreement. Here they are. The first one is transparency. According to this principle, information about policies, commercials and custom rules, licensing requirements, commodity-related inspections, and other information. For example, the name of the approved laboratories for obtaining the necessary permits must be available for all trading parties. Other important things about the principle of transparency are communication and consultation with the business community. Another aspect of transparency is the right of appeal to commercial decision and procedures. The second main topics of trade facilitation agreement is transit liberalization. That includes topics such as choosing the most suitable route for goods to pass, prohibiting discriminatory behavior, preventing unnecessary delays and restrictions, and exempting goods from import duty. And the last one talks about formalities and incoming fees. The cost of any providing services must be commensurate with the services provided. Reduction of fees, simplification of formalities, and rational and proportionality of fines with the taken errors. The agreement has 3 sections. Section 1 contains provision for expediting the movement, release, and clearance of goods, including goods in transit. Section 2 of Trade Facilitation Agreement includes the provision on a special and differential treatment for developing and least developed country. Country members, and as well as the provision of technical assistance and capacity building. And the last section, Section 3, contains provisions that establish a permanent committee on trade facilitations at WTO, obligates the members to have a national committee to facilitate domestic coordination and implementation of the provisions of the agreement. It also sets out a few final provisions too. Trade Facilitation Agreement reference in Customs Law of Iran. The newly Customs Law of Iran is approved in 2012, but the previous one was approved in 1956. So in the newly, almost newly Customs Law of Iran, we have a lot of reference of Trade Facilitation Agreement. Article 12 of Customs Affairs Law and Article 8 of the Executive Ordinance of Customs Affairs Law refers to the role of other organizations and bodies at the ports of entry and exit in order to facilitate and accelerate customs formalities, and refers to the necessity of carrying out the required control by these customs supervised entities. Article 13 of Customs Affairs Law states the obligation of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Finance on informing and clarifying the harmonized commodity description and coding system reforms. Article 43 of Customs Affairs Law refers to the provision of an advisory opinion of the customs to the owner of a goods or his legal representative who does not know the correct tariff number of his goods. And it's also covered the other questions that merchant may have about the trade condition and etc., which are related to the customs affairs. Article 108 and 109 of the Customs Affair, by specifying the amount of fines, help the merchants and facilitate their business process by observing the principle of transparency and prudence in this regard. Article 45 of the Customs Affairs Law gives the owner of the goods the right, in the event of a protest against the amount of import duty requested by the customs, to pay the amount of the import duty in accordance with his declaration and to provide the rest of it as deposit. Article 5 of the Executive Ordinance of Customs Affairs Law obliges the Iran Customs to use modern technologies for customs formalities and customs controls, and obligates the Ministry of Communication and Technology to establish the appropriate communication and telecommunication infrastructures for the implementation of electronic customs. And in the case of a transit, one of the main pillars of the Trade Facilitation Agreement, we have Article 53. Article 53 of the Customs Affairs Law includes passing goods from the territory of country in order to enter to another country. And also, Article 59 defines the internal transit that can be made at the request of the owner of the goods or the related shipping company. Article 119 of the law exempts foreign transit goods from payment of import duties, which is entirely reasonable and consistent with the principles of the Trade Facilitation Agreement of WTO. Trade Facilitation Agreement and Modern Custom Procedures in Iran. The TSC system, Tariff Specification Code, is the 4-digit commodity code that represents the value of goods. Before TSC, the value data were just available for customs officials, which was completely in conflict with the principle of transparency. But now, it's available for all parties related in customs formalities. Actually, it's public for everyone, and everyone have access to the values data. ICCS, Comprehensive Integrated Customs Clearance System, is coordinated with other related organizations in order to access the modern single window system, which physically documents have been removed. PCA, post-clearance audits, can facilitate the revision of the value and tariffs and also increase the lawfulness of traders. PCA are allowed to evaluate and investigate customs formalities up to 3 years after clearance. Risk management. Risk management makes the right balance between trade facilitation and legal controls. So while abundant in so-called ordinary and traditional control, Iran Customs applies risk manager in varying degree of complexity. E-tier project. E-tier project is considered the first international project in which Iran Customs have been chosen as a pilot among 70 countries. As a pilot project between Iran and Turkey, the speed of goods transit has increased. And as other achievement of E-tier project, I can mention to clear the customs formalities process, decrease customs offenses, and goods smuggling via transit in customs borders. Iran Customs electronic transit achievement. Using observation and control equipment and instruments such as the GPS tracking system and truck X-ray by Iran Customs has increased health and safety of transit operation in Iran and neighbors. Iran Customs achievement of electronic customs. Developing international relations with several countries with the aim of promoting customs and trades cooperations. Customs data exchange with neighbors. Another one is doing all transit process electronically. In this moment, just be connected with Turkish customs. Gaining international privilege awarded by WCO for detection of narcotics and goods smuggling. So, So overall, at a brief sum up, I could say in these competitive economic conditions, the implementation of the provisions of Trade Facilitation Agreement is important for member and non-member countries of the WTO. Given the customs nature of this agreement, the WCO and WTO have worked closely together to implement this important document. WTO claims that with the implementation of this agreement, the cost of trade for countries is reduced by 14%. That is noticeable. Thank you all for your patience, and I want to thank Turkish Ministry of Trade and Customs, Korean Customs Services, and the PICARD team. Thank you all.
All contributors. We are 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Weszczowicz. I'm from Poland, and I have some comments and observation to your presentation. Cristiano, your work is excellent from academic point of view, but what about the practical one? I have some questions related to some your slides. The first, I'm interested in how many companies in Brazil has this status authorized economic operators. This is the first. And your last question related to the small and medium size companies, because that is very big question between facilitation presented by customs for companies with certificates of AEO. As you mentioned 2 days ago that in Brazilian customs regulation took place some changes, but I couldn't understand it was indicated or not in your presentation. If not, could you present it? And the second one, if there are practical AEO certificate in Brazil, how many companies or how many countries could accept Brazilian AEO certificate according to the agreement between Brazilian customs and other customs administration? The problem of acceptance, bilateral or multilateral, is the fundamental for each of owners of AEO. It's to your presentation, despite this excellent review of academic relation, books, articles, and so on, but I'm interested in practice. 2 questions similar to my friends from Indonesia. It's also, what about AEO certificates? Because this points of facilitation, it's like HUB who present some services for business, and it's very comfortable for customs administration. But exists in Indonesia also these AEO companies with this certificate? If yes, how, what are relations between these HUBs or these companies? And the last one, your presentation on Iranian new customs regulation is excellent. It's the first time when I can observe that after Bali package and Bali convention introduced into GATT, one country could change its customs law in this good direction, I can say. Good for business and good for nation. Nation with so long history. The first time is turned out toward business. Congratulations. But how it works in practice? It's only 1 year. Could you add something? Because it's also formal, only formal approach to legal regulation. How it works in practice? Works. What are a real relation after introducing into force this law between customs and business community. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Professor Wes. Yes, the number of the AO certified company in Brazil is around the 200, and the program is 4 years old, so it's a good number for the implementing AO program. And we have to consider that we are in the last phase of the implementation, that it will take, in the total, the implementation phase, in the total will be around 5 years, and we are in the fourth year, and you have already 200 companies, but they are big ones. That's one question, one issue that we raised, because there is no mention for SMEs companies. And the idea from theoretical and the practical perspective, the idea is the one perspective to feed each other. And we hope that some academic studies could help the Brazilian managers to improve the legislation, and those theoretical contributions could make some results, some good results in practical terms. That is the idea of our work. And we see this. We said this situation in other times when we changed the results of the academic papers with the Customs Brazilian administration, and we could see some improvements in the legislation, mainly related to the program we had before the AO. It was called Blue Line program, and we could see some kind of interactions on that terms.
As I remember, Lars Carlson, who was, maybe is today, an advisor to the Brazilian customs.
Yes, he is.
Sorry, but I mentioned one of our friends, Lars Carlson, former director of the capacity building in WCO, just right now is one of the famous advisors to the many governments, including Brazil.
Yes.
Because last, I think, 3-4 years, he worked as advisor to the customs of Brazil, including this program of IO.
Blue Line.
Blue Line, yes.
Yes. And oh yeah, the number of agreements, we have today 2 MRIs with Brazil, and the others 3 or 4 they are building, and they are in process of implementations. So we think they are coming up. We are at the implementation phase. And related to the customs brokers in Brazil, as we have talked earlier, the legislation changed because there is one indicator for becoming AO from the customs. Each process took place. We had around 50 certified customs broker in Brazil, but the others, they're non-certified, they start a litigation concerning this issue, and the Brazilian Customs Service, they suspend the AO certification for those have passed in this technical qualification examination. It's a struggle. They are struggling in that moment in Brazil related to this issue, and that's because it's good to see other experiences we have around the world possible to help us to mitigate this problem in Brazil. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comments, the constructive comments. I can explain that for our present research, the AEO is beyond our scope, because in Indonesia we distinguish between the fiscal incentive and incentives in terms of procedure, customs procedure. But this one is about the bonded logistics center, how to say, is on the area of fiscal incentives as well as the customs procedure incentives. But AEO, we mainly differentiate it into the customs procedure incentive. But it is very interesting to dig deeper about the AEO. Perhaps in the near future we will, how to say, focus or scrutinize the impact of AEO, especially to increase trade, or perhaps to see or scrutinize the compliance level, something like that, or whether they give spillover benefits to the domestic economy as well as at the national level, industry level, or at the firm level. Yeah, this is very interesting. But for our current research, mainly focus on the fiscal incentives, especially for the bonded logistic centers that mainly, how to say, designed for the distribution area. Thank you very much.
Another question?
No.
Two? Ah,
Yeah.
sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, thank you for your nice word and your great questions. I think you asked about the process and how being a communications and consultations with the business community. Yeah. Yes. It's consultation. Yes. I mean, yeah. Before abroad allow or regulation, especially the short-term regulations or specific regulations, we take and we could take the comments and ideas of the other parties that related in this specific affairs. For example, takes the ideas of customs brokers and then approved regulations. I mean that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I would like to just one information added to Mr. West. Yeah, Indonesia nowadays have the AEO certification to compliant economies, or sorry, companies. And as of March 2018, there are 75 companies with the AEO certificates in Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the speakers, but my question is addressed to Mr. Cristiano. I don't know, you have got you very well. You have said small and medium enterprises are not mentioned in your study. I don't know if it is only for the purpose of your study or it is a policy in Brazil. Don't you think that small and medium enterprises can benefit from AEO status and can help for the implementation of this status? Thank you.
Thank you, my colleague from Cameroon Customs. There is no special provision in the regulation, in the Brazilian regulation, for the small and medium enterprises become an AEO. And talking to some associations, trade associations we have in Brazil, they see there is the AO certification is costly, and they can't see benefits in direct terms. In terms of, we are talking about the SME companies. So I believe that a good policy could be to improve the legislation, encompassing clear benefits for the SMEs companies in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, dear moderator, and thanks for all the presenters. I have questions for each speakers. Starting from Brazil, thank you for your very effective presentation. I know you are from the university, but during your presentation, we had the vision that you have quite information with regard to the customs practices of Brazil. Therefore, I have some specific questions. Firstly, to better understand your presentation, by performance indicators, do you mean export, import level, or declarations number of the companies? And secondly, you mentioned about the pre-arrival customs clearance. What is the difference between WTO practice of pre-arrival processing and your program of pre-arrival customs clearance? And how is the practical implementation of this mechanism in Brazil? And thirdly, one of the questions on the presentation of your presentation, you mentioned that, is it possible to see the increased number of seized goods? What is the relation of the EU program and with this increased seized goods? And with regard to the Indonesia, you listed some type of customs warehouses or economic zones, and in your presentation, it is written that special economic zone. What is the difference between special economic zone and free trade zones or customs warehouses? And secondly, what is the difference between the terminology of PLB, your customs bonded warehouse, and internationally well-known customs warehouse? And thirdly, what is the aim behind of this PLB practice? The storage with lower costs than in other countries such as Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia. It is the main reason of this practice, or what is the main practice? And could you please share with us, if available, of course, the data on the quantity of storage goods which finally exported to third countries or imported in Indonesia after the storage period in PLBs of Indonesia? And lastly, for Iran, firstly, I would like to express our special thanks to Iran, because the Trade Facilitation Agreement is a WTO agreement. Therefore, the current situation of Iran cannot enable Iran to become a part of Trade Facilitation Agreement. But it's very good to see Iran follows this type of international good practices. And you know that WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement and other international good instruments requires that there shouldn't be any pre-shipment inspection. But when we search the international market access databases, since 1996, Iran Central Bank mandates the use of pre-shipment inspection. It's a mandate, and therefore, what is the current status, or this information is maybe wrong, because we take it from the international market access databases of European Union or America, United States? And are there, if it is the true information, are there any exemptions for any specific country? Thank you very much.
Ladies first. Ladies first. Okay, thank you for the question. And you are right, I could have mentioned more about the AEO Brazilian program, but all AEO programs are based on World Customs Organization framework. And when I mean indicators to become, when I mean about indicators in AEO Brazilian programs is for the economic operator apply for the benefits of the AEO. It means importer, exporters, freight forwarders, warehouse, customs warehouse, for everyone. They can apply. And when I mention about the seized goods, it's because when there are some or a lot of companies certified in AEO, the allocation of resources will be changed from one point to the other point for the non-certified. And if it happens, it's possible to see, could be possible to see the increase of the seized goods. That is the relation I made. And about the pre-arrival customs clearance, I mentioned here because nowadays it's kind of a main improvement we are seeing in these days in Brazil. And we never have this kind of benefits in Brazil, the pre-arrival customs clearance. And the business community, they see clear benefits in terms of time reduction in this point. That's I don't know if I answer your question, but that's what is it?
With regard to the pre-arrival customs clearance, according to the international practices, pre-arrival processing of the WTO trade facilitation agreement, it's a mechanism that enables to present import declarations before the physical arrival of the goods with the necessary supporting documents. These supporting documents can be the documents that should be taken from the authorities of agriculture or health bodies. Therefore, in your practice, for the AEOs, I think you will enable this pre-arrival customs clearance mechanism.
Exactly.
For AEOs, they will lodge the import declaration before the physical arrival of the goods with the necessary documents. Is it like that, or?
It is exactly like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. It's quite thorough, I think. I try to answer one by one. First of all, what about the difference between special economic zone and free trade zone in Indonesia? The difference is the specific, what do you call it, aimed. For free trade zone, specially designed just to increase trade or to facilitate trade by lowering or how to say, reducing the import tariff or other just not to impose the import tariff. But special economic zone, there are many specific zone like industrial zone and then like a trade zone, and then like a service zone, something like that. Each zone has its
specific facilitation, customs facilitation. Not only custom facilitation, but also from tax facilitation, something like that. And then for what the difference between the bonded logistics center and custom warehouse. Basically, the bonded logistics centers mainly only for logistics, and this this facilitation is provided mainly for the specific industries. If you could see, I mean, in our presentation in page 4, there are kind of 8 specific industries, ranging from big industries, SMEs, cargo hub, e-commerce, finished goods, main material, floating storage, export of commodity goods. But for custom warehouse, is it very common? Any industry can apply for this, for this customs facilitation, but not for the bonded logistics centers. We have to scrutinize. We have to scrutinize the necessities of each industries, because usually in the customs warehouse, the facilitation, the all tax fiscal incentives and customs procedure incentive is being provided for 1 year. So after 1 year, the goods has to be moved out. But for the bonded logistics centers, it is extended to 3 years. Why? Because it is the necessities or the needs of specific industries. For instance, oil and gas and mining. Previously, they stored their capital goods and raw materials in Singapore or Malaysia. Why? Because if we would like to import the goods to Indonesia, then they have to pay. They have to pay the import duties, right? So, but they still, don't need yet to in their production process, right? But when we provide or extend this custom facilitation into bonded logistics centers, so they can apply. Not necessarily have to store the goods, the capital goods in Singapore or Malaysia or other countries. Now they can import it with the tax exemption for maximum 3 years. Something like that. And then that's also, I think it's already answered your next question, the aim of PLB, right? Specifically to reduce the logistic cost for specific industries. So the keyword is specific, right? And then for the last question about the data quantity of export and import data stored in PLB, yes, we have, but we didn't bring it right now, but I will give you later if you want. But what I would like to say, or make a borderline here, is a bottom line here is for the bonded logistics center is mainly aim for the to facilitate the distribution or to facilitate the logistics. Yeah, not necessarily have to the companies has to export, but some of them perhaps yes. Yeah, perhaps yes, but not necessarily. We have the other customs facilitation, so-called the export processing zone. Yes, we have it. 100% of their import of raw material as well as the finished good that combined in the production later on will be exported all, yeah, from the export processing zone. But this is different. This is the bonded logistics centers. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your question. If I didn't mistake, your question was about some, I think, sort of banking affairs, and this, but you're true. From 1996, U.S. laws mandate the U.S. penalties against foreign companies that invest in Iran. But Still, there are a lot of foreign companies that invested in Iran. And you know, we always struggled with sanctions from US no.
My question is related with pre-shipment inspection. Pre-shipment inspection is a mechanism to determine the customs valuation and classification of goods in the exporting countries. And to make any importation to Iran, if I have a company in Iran and I want to make some importations from foreign countries, firstly, I have to get a pre-shipment inspections according to the mandate of Iran Central Bank to show the correct customs valuation and customs classification of goods. But according to the international practices and WTO rules, there shouldn't be any pre-shipment inspection obligation for firms, for companies. Therefore, I would like to learn whether this international data on Iranian practice is true or not, and if it is true, is there any possibility for an exemption for a specific countries, maybe in the future, with our bilateral relations with Iran, we can offer that Turkish companies should be exempted from pre-shipment inspection obligations of Iran and Central Bank and Iran Customs Administration. Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, we're not now the member of the WTO because of these issues. And yes, as you said, there are a lot of problems with the central banks, and that's all returns also to the sanctions. And we have a procedures for pre-shipment that we called it in Iran transferring goods with the procedures currency without currency change, with cash, something like cash payment. I know you understand or not. With any need to the central bank, transferring from central bank. Other procedures. In this moment, in these situations, we take another procedures. Thank you.
Other question? Coffee break.
No? Okay. 10 minutes for coffee. Thank you.